Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves in the hush of a grand but secretive world behind the velvet curtains of the French court, where the Queen holds mysterious daily confessions. As you stand amidst this opulence, imagine the rich red of the velvet that conceals royal whispers. The air is perfumed with the subtle scent of lavender and intrigue, while soft flickering candlelight dances off the gilded moldings that frame this intimate space. You probably won't survive this tale, with your sense of curiosity unscathed, for what happens behind these veils is nothing short of tantalizing. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as we whisper about secrets and smiles behind curtains, feel free to post your location and local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The scene unfolds before you as you remove your shoes, stepping lightly over the cool floor tiles that sketch the path into the private chamber. You pause briefly at the velvet drape, expertly avoiding the eyes of the guards who stand like steadfast statues, vying for a chance not to blush at what they accidentally overhear. You press your ear ever so lightly against the opulent fabric, allowing the rich textures to contrast with your curiosity as voices murmur beyond. The Queen's confessions are known to be both a source of fascination and the spur of many a blushing cheek. Yet, the substance of these whispered engagements remains unfathomable. Within this private realm, romantic intrigue and court politics blend seamlessly. You wonder, is it her laugh that causes those rosy hues, or the scandalously progressive ideas she dares to voice? Historians still debate whether these sessions were truly confessions in the religious sense, or merely a clever guise for the Queen's social strategy, a way to wield influence both subtly and effectively in a world dominated by appearances. You stand contemplative, feeling the cool draft tease at the edges of your cloak, bringing a breezy rustle to the velvet, and you can't help but smirk at the sheer cheek of it all. Sunlight filters through the high-arched windows, painting graceful silhouettes along the walls, while the court garden beyond alludes to a natural serenity, an ironic contrast to the inner turmoil of secrets kept. Within these walls, beneath the finely woven tapestries and crystal chandeliers, it's easy to imagine tales as lavish as the decor itself, where conversations shift between comfort and conspiracy. With humor, you recall how courtiers whisper among themselves, certain that the guards have a deeper understanding of amour than even the most seasoned poets just by standing vigil here. Alas, you apply the age-old tactic of foot shuffling to regain focus, stifling a quiet chuckle at the image of a creative bard taking notes in secret. As you ease into the quiet ambiance of the court's broader settings, your sense of curiosity feels tugged like a gentle ripple spreading across a still pond. The room adjusts imperceptibly to your presence, as if acknowledging an unseen observer, understanding your place in a story that isn't entirely yours. Rounding the corner into a tapestry-lined corridor, you encounter the bustling hum of preparation as attendants dash about. They're polishing, arranging, ensuring every detail gleams with princely perfection. A scene so lively with purpose, yet gracefully muted beneath the overarching theme of elegance. One attendant busy with the alignment of an elaborate centerpiece casts a swift, knowing glance your way, a silent acknowledgement of shared intrigue. Intrigued by the quiet influence she held, you can't help but muse over the enigma that these velvet meetings posed to both the commoners and nobility. You emerge into an echo of soft laughter, mingling with the cat's playful shadow as it slips like liquid silver across the St. George crosses laid into the stone. Another reminder that even in this structured moment, whimsy has its place. Each historical court has its oddities and traditions, and French courts in their grandeur weren't immune to such quirks. Documents mention Louis XIV's own meticulously organized daily routine, structured by the sun's journey. Perhaps here, behind this velvet, are the seeds of routines yet to unfurl, where the day begins with whispers and ends with sighs. Reflecting on the curious theater of court life, brimming with both spoken and unspoken dialogue, you step back. The pleasing rustle of your attire complements your movements, subtle yet intentional, and with it, you leave a whisper of wonder in your wake. Here's where you find yourself entwined with the melancholy of time past and present, and you wonder if such delicate secrecy continues to sway both hearts and histories when the stories behind curtains are woven. As you stand in the grand but silent hall of the castle, the cool stone beneath your feet sends a slight chill up your spine. The flickering torchlight dances across the room's aged tapestries and polished armor displays, casting shadows that pulse gently like a heartbeat. While medieval castles are often romanticized as places of grandeur and noble bravery, you're well aware that life here wasn't all feasts and mirth. But here you are, and it's the Middle Ages, and you're immersed in a world of royalty and chivalry. Tonight your journey takes you into the clandestine world of political intrigue, where whispered secrets are currency and alliances forged in shadows can turn the tides of history. Your role is an observer, a silent participant in a story that weaves together loyalty, love, and the ceaseless act of survival against the merciless march of time. The Queen, your focal point, is a figure of grace and intelligence, yet she walks a tightrope of diplomacy every day. Wrapped in intricate gowns and threaded with the skill of 1,000 deft fingers, her attire is more than mere adornment. There's a small, unassuming detail in the hem of her dress, invisible to the untrained eye, yet critical to her existence. It's here that she hides her letters, messages of vital import that must reach allies beyond the thick stone walls of her castle. Tonight her eyes are as sharp as the blade of a freshly honed dagger, scanning the room, noticing everything and missing nothing. You find yourself admiring her dexterity, wondering just how many secrets lie within her embroidered hem. Each stitch, deliberate and painstakingly placed, is a testament to her unwavering resolve and cleverness in a time when women were too often denied credit for their wit and contributions. You chuckle softly, imagining the needlework sessions as less about decor and more as covert correspondence. As evening spills into night, a knight bows before her, his armor glinting in the torchlight. You see his courtesy slightly linger, the barest pause that might be mistaken for reverence, yet carries a silent exchange that only those who know where to look would notice. His eyes flicker momentarily, meeting hers, and you sense the undercurrent of unspoken words. Historically, knights held a fascinating position in medieval society, believed by many to be paragons of virtue and chivalry. Yet historians still debate whether they were as righteous as the stories suggest, or simply the muscle in a highly stratified social structure. In this softly illuminated chamber, however, his chivalric facade is a perfect veil for the hidden intentions. As soon as the knight rises and turns to leave, the queen's fingers deftly touch the hem of her gown, an action so smooth it might be missed by those engrossed in the gaiety of the evening. You imagine her hands skilled from years of practice, ensuring those who bow are privy only to the smallest of hints. A secret dance of fingers and fabric. Outside, under a canopy of stars, the knight makes his way through the cobblestone courtyard, where echoes of the day's bustle now lie silent. You find that this space, though devoid of life, speaks language of its own. The distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves in the soft evening breeze, and the scent of cold, damp earth create an atmosphere ripe for espionage. You amuse yourself with the absurd idea that this knight might trip over his own feet from such an intense focus on his secret charge. A smirk plays across your face as you picture him fumbling in plate armor, a clatter that would surely alert the entire realm's sentries. But no, he's far too practiced. Each step is deliberate, each movement controlled. Traversing medieval nights was no simple feat. You recall that the roads of the past, often described in scribes' accounts, were fraught with danger and secrets untold. Yet here, under the cover of twilight, his path is clear, guided not just by the stars, but by a purpose that keeps his mind sharp and stealthy. The rhythmic clop of his horse's hooves suggests a serene escape, yet you can sense the weight of unseen eyes upon him. In these moments, the tension is palpable, a reminder that these exchanges of hidden letters are dances of shadows and veils, each player a master in the art of concealment. As the chill begins to seep through your cloak, you find yourself pondering the broader spectrum of alliances, how kingdoms rose and fell, not just by the swing of a sword, but by pen needle, and the whispers that threaded through the fabric of their very existence. The queen's strategy prevails as a master class in subtlety, where the hem of a dress becomes both canvas and battlefield. You are gently pulled back to your senses by the scent of distant wood smoke, mingling with the fresh night air. Here in the realm of memories and old tales, you let yourself drift into the woven narrative of the night, where even the stars seem to hold their breath in anticipation of the dawn. You sit on a worn stone bench beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak tree, its leaves whispered secrets to the wind, a place where time itself seems to slow. Here, in a realm where history unfolds like old parchment, and the air is cool with expectation, you find yourself in a quaint courtyard. The afternoon sun filters through, casting dappled shadows on the cobblestones, which are occasionally prickly to the touch as you slide your hand across the stone. It is a place where birds fly free, carrying tails on their wings, much like the ones brought to her, each one a gift full of life and song. You breathe in deeply the earthy scent of moss mixing with the faint aroma of daisies lining the pathways. Little did you know these pathways were once tread by people long gone, leaving behind only whispers of their stories. Imagine, if you will, being in an era where falconry was a noble tradition, a dance between human and bird. You lose yourself in the vivid spectacle of falcons above their wings, slicing through the sky with purpose and grace. The falconer's shouts are gentle and commanding a peculiar harmony of control and freedom. It strikes you as odd. The entire performance, where both falcon and falconer seem to trust each other implicitly, a partnership etched into the very essence of their being. Today you find yourself in the company of a young man whose pursuits are not just of the sky, but of the heart. His visits are precise as routine as the chime of cathedral bells echoing in the distance. He carries with him small fluttering tokens, birds caught with gentle nets, a testament to his skill or perhaps his longing. These birds are not meant for the falconer's glove, but are gifts. Gifts for her. You can almost feel the weight of his intentions, as if the birds carry them amidst their flapping. Your gaze drifts toward her, a figure awaiting with a patience that only poets possess. Her eyes shine with a thoughtfulness that sees beyond the feathers to the soul of his offerings. She repays him with something far less tangible, but infinitely more valuable poetry. Her words, like threads of silver, spun in moonlight wrap around your heart, even as they're uttered to him. The exchange is simple yet profound. There are no grand declarations, just the quiet nod to understanding and the shared delight of secrets kept between them. As you settle deeper into this shared silence, the story unfolds with a twist, a king. Kings are often known to disrupt such quiet routines for sport, for war, or for their own ambitions. However, this king, unbeknownst to many, holds a secret he watches. He sees the birds gifted and the poems received, yet he remains silent. His silence is heavy orchestrated, like a masterful move on a chessboard. Royalty was often a mixed bag. You think sometimes benevolent, sometimes indifferent. Historians debate whether this was wisdom or mere oversight. But here in this courtyard, the king's gaze does not linger with judgment. You can feel his presence like a statue, casting a long shadow. Yet for once, the weight of power is absent, leaving room for stories like theirs to breathe. In the midst of this delicate equilibrium, another surprise awaits, a palpable realization that the falcons, the very symbols of his nobility, are thriving, well-fed and spirited. They dart through the sky with a joy that seems almost human. It's ironic, really. Their sustenance and vigor rival that of any kingdom's grand banquet, yet they serve not on those tables, but in the sky's embrace. As you lean back against the rough-hewn bench, you chuckle softly, pondering if the falcons ever caught wind of the king's silent watching, or of the lover's silent discourse. You wonder if they would care gorged on privilege, yet their wings beat a different rhythm, one of nature and nurture, intertwining seamlessly above the stories below. There's a comfort here among the whispers of history, a gentle lull that beckons you to rest your eyes and let the world retreat for a time. The trees sway slightly, as if knowing the tales carried on breezes. They shush the landscape, inviting you to join in the dream. It's a dance of shadows, stories, and the soft beating of wings, a perfect symphony for a night's repose. As the day winds down and the sky drapes a veil of twilight, you pull a shawl tighter, feeling the cool touch of evening. The birds her poems, and the king's indifferent observation weave together like threads in a tapestry, an ancient story wrapping around you like a ceremonial garment. You take a deep breath and exhale slowly, letting your shoulders relax against the supportive stone of the bench. You close your eyes, listening to the hum of the evening as it settles over the courtyard. And as sleep approaches, you drift on thoughts of simpler times and quiet love where the drama of kingdoms paled against the tender exchange of a bird and a poem. You find yourself amidst the lively whispers of a medieval court where towering candles flicker and cast playful shadows across tapestries of nights long forgotten. The room is abuzz, a swirling current of noble attire and aromatic perfumes. Debates echo off the stone walls as lords and ladies huddle together, deliberating the tedious logistics of taxes. Who knew that gold was such a fascinating topic? You almost smile at the sheer intensity painted across their faces, wondering if they've ever pored over a ledger by candlelight. Meanwhile, your attention drifts to the peripheral. A lady not of the court, adorned not in the elaborate silks of the nobles, but in simpler attire that nonetheless commands a different kind of attention. Her essence, a mastery of quiet defiance against the court's pomposity, draws you in. Her presence operates like a magnet, and it's clear she's up to something far more intriguing than the mundane topics at hand. You step closer, navigating the intricate dance of courtiers with a grace that surprises even you, dodging elaborate gowns and adjusting your footing across the uneven flagstones. You catch snippets of whisper-light conversations as you pass. They are mostly conjectures, whiffs of intrigue wrapped in hushed tones. Amidst all this, your eyes capture a small, weighty moment. The lady produces a pouch, fingers nimble and efficient. Like some timeless scheme, she hands it to a man whose focus on her is unwavering. His garb is that of a poet, and you recall vaguely that he's the one who weaves sonnets about the most curious of subjects, her shoes. Not exactly Shakespearean, but one must have a muse. She bestows the precious rubies with a knowing smile, and he accepts them like a trophy, eyes warm, with an affection that attempts to burn brighter than the jewels. Curious sparks flicker in your mind. What tales those rubies could tell if they had the voice. A small chuckle escapes you. It seems even in the heart of political strife, romance blossoms in its own curious and convoluted ways. But why shoes, you marvel? There's something oddly poetic yet puzzling about it. You pull back just slightly enough to lean against the cool stone wall, wondering if this man composes his verses while threading each shoe with tales of fortune and folly. The room continues its fervor, a wash of musky perfumes and rustling silk. You hear the strains of lute music entwined with the ongoing, heated discourse of taxes like two ships in an eternal crossing. It seems historians still debate whether these lyrical exchanges were mere folly, or held deeper machinations, plotting, or adoration. Who can say? And so the lady drifts away, her departure as seamless as her approach, leaving behind hues of mystery and whispers of ruby red. You ponder the court's affairs, a peculiar blend of the mundane and the profound. Perhaps it's the setting, but you can't help letting out a soft laugh, shaking your head at the thought that even back in history, people found distractions in the charmingly absurd. The court settles back after a momentary distraction. Service staff glide through the corridors, with grace balancing golden platters of fruit and goblets filled with velvety wine. Their motions rhythmic and predictable contrast, the chaotic tapestry of court intrigue with simple efficiency. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the myriad scents savoring the eerily timeless tableau. You stifle a yawn. Perhaps it's the warmth of the room, or the lull of low voices mixed with opulent scents, but your eyelids begin to droop. You exhale slowly, leaning further against the wall, feeling the roughness of stone steadier than the audience before you. Just as you drift into the coziness of the moment, a question hovers at the back of your mind. What other stories weave through the layers of fabric here unseen and unheard? Much like the poet might ponder the craftsmanship of her shoes, you find yourself caught wondering about the crafts of such unexpected narratives. Sometimes you muse. It seems all the world is a stage for peculiar players to enact their incalculable dramas. And isn't that just the charm of history? It's less a dry script of equations and more a vibrant tapestry of stories, like these woven from moments behind the tapestry fringes, often left unspoken, yet felt through time's long corridor. Behind the palace, in a small and forgotten corner, lay a walled garden known only to a select few. Each morning, as the sun painted the sky with gentle hues, of rose and gold birds would take to the air, their songs the first hint of what lay beyond the weathered stone walls. The palace itself was a grand testament to the era, with its towering spires and cascading tapestries. But it was what lay to the east, on a path less trodden, that held a secret charm. As you walk across the cobblestone courtyard, beneath the watchful eyes of weathered stone sentinels, you feel the cool morning air brush against your cheeks. It's an era where science and superstition are often found hand in hand, and the garden seems like a secret held by both. Historians still debate whether this garden was planted for a beloved queen or perhaps a favored advisor. But what you know for certain standing here is the sense of timeless seclusion it provides. You fidget with the small key in your hand, a delicate piece of wrought iron. It's slightly heavier than you'd expect for something that locks away a part of the world. As you slide the key into the lock, it turns with a satisfying click, much like the turning of a page. The ivy that cascades over the stone seems to whisper as it sways in the breeze, reminding you of all the stories it could tell if it could speak. The small wooden door swings open with a creak that seems to blend with the morning chorus of frogs and bees. You step inside, closing the door gently behind you, ensuring the world's noise is dimmed. Within the high stone walls, the garden seems a perfect Eden, untouched and longing to share its secrets. There's something about the way its paths meander, subtly charted by thick, lush greenery that invites exploration. Rows of neatly pruned rose bushes stand alongside wild poppy patches, their blossoms dotting the landscape with bursts of color, like a painter hesitating then confidently flinging red and pink onto canvas. You smile quietly to yourself, amused by the thought that the roses perhaps find themselves superior to the poppies, as if plants could engage in such folly. It is an amusing notion that ends with a chuckle surprising even you in its levity. As your steps find a steady rhythm, your hand absent-mindedly glides along the tops of the hedges, cool yet soft under your fingertips. A little further along, a century-old tree stands proudly, its trunk wide enough that even two pairs of arms couldn't reach around it. Beneath its vast canopy lies a simple wooden bench, worn smooth by years of use. You sink into it gently, your hands resting upon your lap, taking in the symphony of nature that surrounds you. There, under the generous boughs of the ancient tree, the young scribe sits bent over sheets of parchment with a quill in hand. Her eyes dart across lines of script, her brow furrowed in concentration as she transcribes poetry, verses filled with the fragrance of lavender and the poignant sting of nettles, just like the garden that surrounds her. The quill scratches quietly yet diligently against the page, and she pauses every so often, allowing her gaze to drift upwards amongst the rustling leaves and the sun's playful dapple. She nods a soft greeting, an acknowledgement of your presence that slips gently into the garden's natural order. Isn't it peculiar? She muses, her voice like a breeze through reeds. How words can capture a moment, a feeling, and hold it still, like one of those dragonflies, pinned and perfect. Her whimsical observation causes a smile to flit across your lips, the weight of the day lightening just a fraction. She is a fixture here, much like the garden's flora, unassuming yet integral to the narrative the garden tells. Do you think the roses argue with the poppies when we're not around? You offer back, echoing your earlier musings. She laughs softly, a sound that intertwines at the rustle of nearby leaves. Perhaps, she says playfully, and I imagine the daisies mediate with all the grace they can muster. It's hard not to surrender to the tranquil simplicity of her world, one soaked in ink and blossoms. As she returns to her task, you close your eyes for a moment, the bench creaking in the most reassuring manner beneath your weight. The gentle rise and fall of birdsong twine with the faint hum of bees, forming a soothing lullaby. The history of this secret retreat is elusive as the fragrances that mingle in the warm air. You briefly wonder if the kings and queens of old ever sought refuge here, amidst intrigue and legacy. Perhaps this was their sanctuary, a place where thoughts were free to float like butterflies, unrestrained by duty or fear. Yet it's here in this delicate balance of nature and the quiet scratch of a quill that one finds the heart of the garden, a testament to growth, change, and the ceaseless tick of time. You inhale slowly, savoring the scent of the garden, which dances somewhere between memory and mystery. Time stretches and folds, and with each unfolding, this hidden Eden gives something new. You realize the stories it holds extend far beyond its blossom-filled borders, reaching into the human heart, where sanctuary is both sought and found in moments of solitude, in the midst of history's storytelling. In the shadow of the primeval tree, you feel the tender embrace of peace. A garden of its own kind bloom warmly within you. The grand dining hall is hushed its opulent chandeliers casting gentle golden light over the velvet-draped tables. You notice the king seated at the long table's head, his eyes twinkling with a nuanced blend of pride and regality. He seems oblivious to the ripple of whispers skimming the surface of polite conversation. But then that's his job, isn't it? To remain composed, a bulwark against the unpredictable sea of courtly affairs. As you settle into your seat, the room resonates with the soft clinking of cutlery and delicate laughter. 2 seats down there, she sits, the queen, poised and exquisite like an ancient statue imbued with life, her fingers elegantly poised against the silver of her wine goblet catch the soft light in a peculiar manner. It's then you see it, a ring, an unfamiliar circle of opalescent stone gracing her hand. It's not the royal seal that usually rests there instead. This piece glows with an otherworldly luster that straps a question to your mind. From whom? You find it curious, and so does everyone else. It seems, notwithstanding the absence of spoken inquiry. Across from you, a notable duke tilts his head eyes, dancing with questions of their own. You wonder if anyone will break this unspoken détente, delving into your memory of history lessons. Back when you weren't in a velvet chair, but perhaps on a hard school bench, you vaguely recall that jewelry has always been a language of power and allegiance. Once Cleopatra dissolved a pearl in vinegar to flaunt wealth before Mark Antony, historians recount. You muse upon whether this grand gesture was more of an ancient dare than a romance, as some suggest. Suddenly your ears catch a snippet of conversation from the next table, a famed historian detailing the reign of a previous queen who was known to amass a fortune in hidden jewels. Their voices drop conspiratorially, the kind of tone that suggests knowledge of rumors rather than facts. Historians still debate whether her secret treasures were a symbol of love, betrayal, or rebellion. They say. You nod along, internally marveling at how these stories warp and weave over time. Your eyes draw back to the queen. Her face remains serene, an enigma all on its own. Yet you can't help but notice a slight flicker of amusement play across her lips, as if she knows it's your turn to digest this twist of silent theater. You imagine her amusement could stem from the absurdity of people thinking they understand royalty, capable of being unraveled like a nursery rhyme. But here you are, night swimming in their complex waters. A sudden string of laughter bubbles up from a nearby cluster of nobles, and you find yourself smiling. It's these moments, with their strange blend of reverence and folly, that make history's grand tapestry so tantalizingly unpredictable. You can't help but think. And it's quite a comfort actually knowing that even amidst all this grandeur, there remains space for mysteries like misplaced rings and hidden stories that beg to be discovered or perhaps kept secret. Another slice of courtly memory emerges with a whisper from your senses, aided by the aroma of fine-baked pastries. You recall read in passing that the illustrious Marie Antoinette had a penchant for secret garden parties and hidden cakes. Let them eat cake, they said, but what if they preferred pie or pudding instead? You chuckle lightly to yourself. The weight of the evening hangs light and airy, as much in jest as in tradition. You breathe it in deeply, accepting the curiosity and conjecture as your companions tonight. The servers retrieve the silver-laden plates with careful grace. And as the regal couple rises, the room follows suit, a synchronized sway of elegant silk and satins. The conclusion of the dinner party seems inevitable, yet you sense the whispered tales of these moments will linger long past the desserts, with the Queen's ring as the evening's unspoken toast. Outside, the night waits with a crisp breeze, ready to carry your reflections into the realm of dreams. You exhale slowly, letting your thoughts drift with that ancient wind, resting assured in the magic of past and present, seamlessly entwined like vines in a forgotten abbey garden. At night, when the moon was high, the manor seemed to come alive in ways that defied explanation. You find yourself wandering through the narrow candlelit halls of the old estate, your footsteps whispering across the wooden floors. The air is thick with a mysterious allure, a tapestry woven with shadows and moonlight. You have heard murmurs among the servants' tales of music and laughter that fill the air as the moon hangs like a silver coin in the velvet sky. No musicians have been invited to play, and yet the strains of an unseen orchestra weave through the night. It's a curious symphony, somehow familiar, yet foreign, pulling at some distant memory within you. Perhaps it's your imagination running wild as the night deepens, and the boundaries between dreams and reality blur. You chuckle softly to yourself, a wry thought flickering in and out of your mind, ghosts with a penchant for midnight concerts, and no care for schedule or seating arrangement. Your thoughts drift, imagining a court of specters, twirling in the moonlight, their laughter as ethereal as their movement. It's a notion historians still debate, whether the tales of spectral gatherings have any foundation in reality, or if they serve only to amuse the fancy of those who've since wandered the manor's halls. You run your fingers along the smooth stone of the window ledge and gaze out at the moonlit gardens. Their silhouette is a delicate lace-like pattern etched against the darkness. You wonder how it must have felt to live in this grand place during its prime, perhaps during the Regency era, when such gatherings of high society were not rare. Imagine the grand ballroom filled with dames and lords, and perhaps, just perhaps, the laughter they left behind echoes even today. You consider how more than a few incidents just couldn't be explained away by mere tricks of the light or an overly active imagination. The servants have told you that in the stillness of night there's a whisper of a tale, that the lady of the house, a regal figure of undeniable dignity, shared a sacred pact with the forces that reside in the night. Was it true, or simply the product of sleepless nights and too many ghost stories? You nod to yourself, the comfortable weight of speculation settling on your shoulders. Leaning against the cold stone of the window frame, you imagine the lady herself, standing here some 100 years ago, the music of her mystical soiree, catching the cool breezes just outside this very window. You almost feel a pang of envy at her secret world, woven into the ordinary pattern of her household magic, glimpsed only by the chosen few who dared to listen beyond the mundane. Your mind plays tricks on you as you listen more intently now. Doubt mingles with certainty as strains of a piano, and the light pluck of a stringed instrument, perhaps a lute, float through the air. You can't help but smile at the notion that the house proud and old might still hold tight to its secrets, with the same resolute elegance as its former mistress. There's a quiet scraping noise from the corridor, and you turn, catching sight of one of the servants. She nods at you, a knowing smile on her lips. "Hear them again, did you?" she asks softly, her voice as gentle as the night. "Don't fret. They like an audience." You raise an eyebrow. "Any requests?" You quip the sarcasm softened by your growing curiosity. She chuckles, the sound low and warm. "Only if you've got the ear for it," she replies, before disappearing into the shadows of the hallway, leaving behind a lingering sense of camaraderie in this shared mystery. You take a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and let it out slowly, noticing the way your shoulders relax against the aged stone. In the quiet, surrounded by the music of unseen players and the gentle hum of a house at rest, you find a peculiar peace. Your bedtime journey into history has barely begun yet. It already invites you into a world where the past never quite lets go, and the imagination has free rein to wander. And as your eyelids begin to flutter heavy with the whispers of the night, everything around you sighs into a tranquil harmony. You imagine the moonlight as a gentle lullaby cradling the manor, and its secrets in its soft silvery glow. It seems the night holds you in a tender embrace. And before succumbing to sleep, you wonder if the laughter and music will dance through your dreams, just as they weave through these ancient walls. As you weave through the dusty corridors of a stone castle, the cool air whispers against your skin. The echoes of your footsteps melt into the ambient hum of distant candle flames. The queen awaits you seated gracefully upon an ornately carved wooden chair. Her eyes hold both warmth and a glimmer of uncertainty. You approach her carefully reverent, but curious. The room is draped in soft tapestries, depicting scenes from ancient times, knights and mythical creatures entwined in eternal combat. You find yourself captivated by the tales woven into the fabric, wondering silently if those stories hold more truth than they let on. A gentle breeze slips through a narrow window, rustling the colorful cloth and causing the candlelight to dance across the stone walls. Kind friar. The queen begins her voice a gentle lilt that seems to carry with it the weight of unsaid truths. I've sought your knowledge for matters most peculiar. A confession is soft, as though cast in the dim glow specifically for your ears. As a traveling friar, you are accustomed to whispered secrets, confessions of guilt, quiet admissions of sin. Yet this is different. There is a curious earnestness to her words that piques your interest. The queen confesses not to sins of the flesh or spirit, but dreams vivid visions of love that seem so real, so potent, they haunt her. You can't help but raise an intrigued eyebrow, more out of reflex than disbelief. History, after all, is a tapestry of bizarre truths and impossible stories. As it happens, historians still debate whether certain medieval queens wielded power through love or sheer force, perhaps both, perhaps neither. You listen as she describes her dreams, a world painted in colors Only she seems to understand. Perhaps it's the setting this grand stone chamber with its high vaulted ceiling that adds gravity to her words. Or perhaps it's the unyielding earnestness etched across her face, the way her fingers slip delicately along the ornate armrest of her chair as she speaks. You find yourself in a moment of silent contemplation. Love dreams reality, they twist and turn in the chambers of your own mind. If only your simple scroll had the capacity to capture every shade of meaning in this room. But alas, scribes are often overworked and underappreciated. You'd think parchment was as expensive as dragon scales. You muse dryly to yourself. The queen's journey into her dreams reveals an unusual fact. She sees herself walking through markets, teeming with vibrant life, yet unchanged by the ravages of time. She encounters old friends, long since departed, who greet her with a familiarity akin to yesterday, despite existing solely in memory. Yet here sits the question, what stirs these dreams? Is it mere longing or something more profound? Historians may one day ponder over these accounts. You're sure to jot down, or as your wit suggests, hastily scribbled between non-existent dragon sightings. As she speaks, you catch a glimpse of a parchment peeking out from beneath the bedding, a partial scroll. You once began noting the whispers and ramblings of royalty. Such scrolls, filled with the lore and fancies of noble minds, are the friar's humble gift to future generations. Yet here it lies unfinished, much like the dreams recounted by the queen. You amuse yourself with the thought, a scroll abandoned in favor of pillow and rest. A most dignified diary indeed. You chuckle internally as a brisk wind shifts the shadows on the stones around you. The queen pauses, her expression suddenly serene, as if releasing the tether that ties her to waking thoughts. You sense her dreams aren't burdens at all, but rather the onset of some understanding of her own heart, a royal musing with an exquisite cloak of love and longing. With a soft smile, she thanks you her words, wrapping around you like the gentlest of embraces. The moment lingers just long enough to feel sacred, a private communion in the silence of the evening. Exiting the room, you tread softly on the well-worn stones of the corridor, the whispers of your own feet joining the chorus of night. There is a weight, lifted the invisible touch of shared hearts and confided secrets. The world seems larger stories intertwining like the tendrils of ivy against the castle walls. And as you retreat, the thought of embarking on, unraveling these dreams, fills you with a peculiar wonder. Are dreams merely trivial entertainments of the night, or are they signposts to deeper truths waiting to be uncovered? The mysteries of the heart and mind, ancient riddles that you, dear friar, have the privilege to explore under the canvas of history's endless night. Perhaps tonight, as you find your own rest, beneath the moonscape glow, flooding your chamber, you'll compose a tale of the queen's visions. Perhaps you will capture the echo of a dream that bridges the frontier between sleep and waking. These thoughts cradle you as dusk looms, with tender fingers drawn across the sky, and the revelations of the day fade gently in the embrace of slumber, awaiting the next chapter in your daydreams under the ancient stars. In her diary, she wrote, "He cannot rule a kingdom if I rule his heart." You stand at the edge of a grand stone courtyard, your feet rooted in the history that surrounds you. The morning sun peeks timidly over the formidable stone walls of the ancient castle, casting long shadows that play upon the mossy ground. You can almost feel the weight of the past pressing gently on your shoulders. The stories and secrets held within these walls are as palpable as the cool, crisp air around you. As you walk through the courtyard, you notice the bustle of preparation for what must be a grand feast. Servants dart back and forth, their arms filled with bundles of aromatic herbs, their voices a soft tapestry of whispers and muted laughter. It seems there is a celebration brewing and the air tingles with anticipation. You think with a touch of dry humor how at least some things haven't changed. There's always an excuse for a party when royalty is involved. Brushing your fingers against the age-old stone, you wander towards the large oak doors that lead inside. As they creak open, you are greeted by the flickering glow of torches lining the corridor. The warmth of the flames is a welcome contrast to the chill outside. You can't help but imagine the many monarchs and courtiers who have walked these halls, some whose names have been etched into history and others who've been forgotten to time like whispers in the wind. Inside the grand hall, you find tapestries depicting battles and chivalric deeds. The vibrant colors have faded over the years, but still capture scenes of knights in shining armor and courtly love. Your eyes are drawn to one particular tapestry of a queen standing resolute beside her king, a serene determination etched in her gaze. He cannot rule a kingdom if I rule his heart. You muse thinking about the power behind those embroidered eyes. Historical fact or rumor? Historians still debate whether this sentiment was penned by a particular medieval queen. Did she weave her influence to guide a nation? Or was it the fanciful invention of a bard seeking to entertain with tales of courtly intrigue? As you stand there, the rich aroma of freshly baked bread wafts in from a distant kitchen, making your stomach rumble in protest at the thought of crumbly supermarket loaves by comparison. You make your way toward the source of the sweet smell, wandering through a narrow arched passageway. In the kitchen, the clattering of pots and pans creates an oddly soothing rhythm. Cooks, flour-dusted and good-natured, exchange banter as they work. You can't help but smile at their camaraderie, proof that some things remain timeless. As you pass by, one of the cooks offers you a small roll still warm and inviting. You accept it with gratitude, enjoying the simple pleasure of crispy crust and soft, steaming interior. The kitchen opens into a small garden, lush and verdant. It's a refuge of tranquility, walled off from the busy preparations, a quaint corner where one could forget about politics and power struggles, if only for a moment. As you stroll through, birds tweet melodiously from the trees, filling the space with soft music. You pause, closing your eyes to savor the serene ambiance. You imagine the queen herself might have sought solace here, perhaps jotting down her thoughts in the privacy of her diary in moments of reflection. You wonder if she ever found peace among the roses, or was she always strategizing, aware of the role she played in the kingdom's governance? It's a sobering thought swiftly lightened by an unexpected splash of cold water from an ancient stone fountain. You chuckle to yourself at the surprise and the whimsical thought that maybe the queen orchestrated even the fountains to keep her company on her strolls. With dusk approaching and the festival preparations reaching their zenith, you decide it's time to return indoors, back through the grand hall and past the vigilant tapestries. There's a sense of continuity here, a connection between the lives lived within these walls and your own brief journey through their story. Your travels have taken you across many places through different ages, yet there's always a thread of familiarity. People still strive for influence, know tender affections, and seek a little corner of solace amidst the chaos. Inside the revelry is set to commence laughter, and music echo along the corridors as attendees arrive adorned in garments of rich hues and intricate designs. You're invited to join them to partake in the centuries-old tradition of celebration and community. It's as if by some quiet magic you've been woven into the history of this place, your path a part of the greater tapestry yet to be unwound. For now you hang your own musings in the air like ornaments on ancient trees, and you stand with the soft knowledge that here for a spell time gently fades away, leaving only the glow of torchlight and the soft murmur of the crowd preparing to toast to a legacy that dances eternally just before the dawn. As you cradle the locket in your hands, the weight of its legacy settles over you like a thick, warm blanket on a winter night. It gleams softly in the candlelit room, casting gentle shadows on the walls that seem to sway with each flicker of the flame. This locket has been passed down through generations, surviving countless tales of wars, celebrations, and quiet nights like this one. It's as if the locket holds secrets from those long-gone times, whispered into its metallic heart over the centuries. You know that most of your family believes the locket contains a likeness of the king, a revered ancestor perhaps. Yet as you delicately clasp it open, you reveal a small, almost imperceptible surprise. It does not contain the image of the king. Skimming the inside with your fingertips, you find a tiny folded sketch, tucked away, an enigmatic relic of a time you've only read about in history books. The night air is cool, blowing through the open window, carrying with it the scent of honeysuckle and distant wood smoke. You find yourself sitting on an old wooden chair that creaks quietly beneath you, offering a familiar melody in the stillness. It's a comfort, like the feel of aged pages from an old book crackling beneath your touch. You can almost hear the whispers of those who've held the locket before you, as though it connects you with an unbroken lineage through time. Historians might debate whether such family heirlooms truly offer a tangible link to the past, but it feels like there's a tangible weight, a gravitas to this moment. You wonder to yourself if the locket had been a silent witness to historical events you've always been curious about. Leaning back, you close your eyes, briefly imagining what life might have been like for those who owned the locket long before you. Perhaps your great-great-grandmother donned it during a festive ball, her gown swaying as she moved through a grand hall illuminated by countless candles. Or maybe it was tucked safely in a pocket during times of unrest, a silent witness to the struggles and triumphs faced by those who dared to dream of a better world. You chuckle softly to yourself, musing over how objects of the past managed to endure, while many monumental human achievements fade into obscurity. It's ironic you think that a small piece of jewelry could hold more emotional sway than a colossal statue or a sweeping edict. As you ponder this, the faint sound of footsteps outside draws your attention. The village night watch, no doubt upholding the ancient tradition of keeping vigil over the town long after the sun has dipped below the horizon. You recall reading that in some places these watchmen would sing softly to themselves, carrying the echoes through the cobblestone streets, as they paced a curious detail that sounds almost mythical. Slowly, you return your gaze to the locket. The sketch within it is tiny, intricate, a reflection of something or someone, unknown, concealed from history's wide lens. You can't help but wonder why it's here. Could it be a grandparent's love captured in a private moment? A personal symbol, cherished far beyond the reign of kings. Inside, you feel a strange mix of responsibility and empowerment, as though knowing this secret confers a special connection, a tender bond that spans generations. You try to imagine what conversations were held, what decisions were made, with this very locket present as a silent observer. And just as you begin to drift, sinking into the soft embrace of night, you are pulled back by a distant peal of laughter echoing through the evening air from the town square. It's reassuringly familiar, the sound of neighbors gathering, perhaps to escape reality for a while, sharing stories of their own. Your lips twitch into a sleepy smile as you consider joining them, if only for a moment's respite from the mystery nestled in your palm. Still cradling the locket, you let your eyes trace its delicate interwoven patterns, once more feeling a warmth spreading through your fingers. It dawns on you that it's not just a family heirloom. It's a vessel for stories untold, lives unspoken. How funny it is that such a small object can elicit such large questions about identity and belonging. As you finally stand to set the locket back on its resting place, next to the stack of worn books and a small handmade quilt, you feel a hushed reverence fill the room. The kind of peace that echoes the depths of time, a gentle tug back to a long line of ancestors who've somehow led you here to this moment. You stretch and listen as the wind cradles the shadows across the floorboards, wondering if those who held the locket before you had such curious nights. What fleeting thoughts might they have pondered before letting sleep take them over? In your heart, you hoped they knew they were loved and part of something larger than themselves. Turning slowly back towards the window, you see the moon gracing the night with silver light. It shimmers over the eaves of your house, brightening your view of the world outside and casting long, graceful shadows across the ground. You draw the quilt around your shoulders, feeling its comforting embrace. With one last glance at the locket, you softly pad towards the window, breathing in the night air that seems to carry a blend of secrets and dreams. Your thoughts meander into uncertainty, a comfortable diversion, as familiar as the stars above. Historians still debate the power of such tangible links to history's grand tapestry. But as you stand there calmed by the night's lullaby, you find one simple truth: the locket has found its place in your own story, just as much as any king's likeness ever could. You slide the brush through her hair with a gentle sweep, careful not to tug or pull. Each brush stroke seems to unlock another layer of ebony silk, and you wonder if the queen's hair holds secrets, tales whispered only between strands. The chamber is silent except for the soft crackle of the fireplace, which flickers light across the stone walls, casting fleeting shadows that dance like ghosts from a forgotten past. Outside, the moon hangs low in the evening sky, spilling cool silver over the castle grounds. The rhythmic brushing lulls you into a trance, each stroke a meditation in itself. You think about how Henry VIII once had a barber surgeon scrub the palace floors on hands and knees, a peculiar detail of royal life that feels oddly intimate now. You imagine this same scene with its peculiar grandeur repeating through ages gone by. As you arrange the queen's linens, crisp folds falling perfectly into place, the fabric's clean scent is a balm on the evening air. You savor the satisfaction of each tuck and crease the linens, whispering a story older than time itself. The queen stands by the window, her presence both commanding and serene, as if the weight of the crown balances perfectly atop her hidden thoughts. Tonight she speaks without words, her silence louder than any courtly proclamation. 3 days ago, an unusual episode took place. You had wandered into the library to find her alone, poring over a volume, as deep laughter spilled from her like a melody without a composer. Startled, you watched from the shadows, wondering what jest book or folly had captured her mirth. There she was, unguarded, simultaneously regal and utterly human in her laughter. Historians would ask, what indeed could make a queen laugh so freely? The answer, like so many others, might be lost to the past or drifting in the forgotten dust of old tomes. After that encounter, you had slipped away, vanishing if only briefly. Those 3 days were yours, alone, a retreat into lesser respects, finishing tasks in corners none could see. You ponder if the queen recalled the laughter shared only with the walls of her private retreat. Sometimes you muse. Libraries are not only for scholars and studious bibliophiles, but can be sanctuaries for unwritten stories too. When you return, the landscape of her chambers feels altered. Not physically, of course, but like an artist has retouched a familiar portrait. The light is softer, like a pale dawn, breathing through slanted curtains. You have this urge to ask her of the book, of why she laughed when moments are often heavy with the kingdom's expectancies. Yet you refrain and let the silence fill the spaces between words unsaid. The routines continue. You folded linens so often that now they fall into place without conscious effort. There's irony in finding peace in repetitive tasks within such regal confines. You chuckle inwardly at the thought that future historians might construct narratives about this very space, arguing perhaps about the artistic merits of such mundane chores in the grand tapestry of history. Suddenly she speaks. An inquiry about her correspondence, the tone as gentle as a whisper spun from cotton. It's not the words that surprise you, it's her voice like a soft beckoning. In that instant, you come to think perhaps she too sees more than stone walls and gilded instructions. Perhaps she knows under her collected bearing that every soul carries untold stories and concealed ambitions. You hand over parchment sealed and press the royal insignia of wax crisp under your fingertips. A thought floats to the surface, a whimsical question about whether the queen receives letters like common folk do, or whether her messages are entirely composed of the stately affairs. Maybe just perhaps there are messages of humor tucked amid the formalities. The notion of the queen receiving idle gossip from some foreign counterpart paints a smile across your thoughts. Yet in this moment of imagined triviality, you feel a connection to the past and to those who once occupied similar spaces with equal measures of dignity and duty. Here in this grand chamber where history beats quietly beneath the fabric of routine, you recognize the odd, comforting kinship shared with the past. From the way wardrobes close with a delicate sigh, to how the chamber door's hinge creaks, they echo the simple grandeur that marks the life of those who serve a lady of stature. As you step back into the present, you remind yourself that even in silence, there's a music that plays only for those willing to listen. The room settles into a hushed repose, like a scene set for a play that won't begin until the curtain of night falls heavier across the land. Here, amidst such woven threads of simple human interaction and grand historical significance, you find a poignant reverie. And so, with each brush of hair, each corner of linen folded, and each mysterious retreat engraved within these colorless stone walls, you too become part of the tapestry. Should some future soul wander through these corridors, guided by whispers of your work, let them discover these humble gestures stories only they can weave from threads of long past silences and muffled laughter. You approach the grand halls of the sprawling palace, the air tinged with the coolness of evening, and the subtle scent of jasmine drifts through the open windows. The quiet, opulent ambiance sets a backdrop for the more invisible games played within these walls. Lighting is dim, casting long shadows that dance upon the checkerboard tiled floor, echoing the subtle strategies unfolding in hidden rooms. In the soft light of the ambassador's parlor, you sit across a table that bears the weight of an unassuming game board. The pieces carved from ivory glisten subtly in the amber glow from the lamp. You lean forward, fingers brushing across the pawns, feeling their cool smoothness, contemplating the moves and counter-moves that lie ahead. The ambassador sits in silence, the only sounds those of their steady breathing, and the faint ticking of a gilded clock in the corner. This is your meeting ground, with words replaced by calculated gestures of wooden pieces. The weight of history lies between you, a reminder of the Byzantine chess matches that once infused diplomacy with deliberate strategy, echoing through the ages even now. Historians still debate whether these games were more about mental prowess or veiled communication, an intellectual letter passed beneath the table of discourse. You can't help but wonder as you trace the outline of a bishop how many treaties or silent accusations were advocated through such pawns and rooks. As you set forth your first move, You wonder if the ambassador might be reading more into the positioning of this piece than the rules of the game allow. You manage a wry smile, briefly catching their eye to see an almost imperceptible smirk of recognition. This is indeed more than a game of chess. It's a dance one where every foot scuffing the floor may whisper a forgotten pledge or an unspoken alliance. Outside, a nightbird calls as if marking a passage of time that feels altogether different within this chamber. The walls adorned with tapestries of legendary battles and noble victories absorb the silence, leaving the room floating almost weightlessly in its own sphere of existence. Your fingers tap a steady rhythm against your knee beneath the table, mimicking the methodical, calming heartbeat of the game. With each move, there's an unspoken nod to those who came before you. Did the empires of old imagine their futures intertwined across checkered battlegrounds such as this? You move a knight with a silent flourish, aware of the ambassador's eyes, tracing its path across the board. One might find humor in thinking that kingdoms once rested on the outcome of such clandestine encounters, even if exaggerated. Unexpectedly, a candle flickers briefly, casting jagged shadows across the board, and you raise an eyebrow half to yourself as you ponder the whimsical antics of these small, innocent pieces at play. You recall historians amusedly debating if monarchs ever flustered under the pressure of a chessboard revelation, their plans momentarily scattered like ill-gathered marbles. Your opponent's fingers pause over a rook, the tension in the air tangible, yet so gentle, it cradles you into the present moment with a strangely comforting embrace. Are they ensnared in a tactical conundrum, or are they simply relishing the quietude of this shared isolation? A tiny gasp from a board shift breaks your reverie. The game carries on in silence, articulate in its expression of strategy, until the clock strikes softly from its perch. In that delicate echo, you share a human connection that transcends mere spoken words, a camaraderie forged in the tactical exchange of minds. The ambassador finally leans back with an expulsive breath of satisfaction, as if acknowledging the mutual respect carved out in play. Outside, the winds murmur tales of old through the cypress trees, stories of emperors and alliances lost to time. The intricacies of the game fade into the background as you sit back, the room's secrets settling back into the soft folds of night. The board, like so many others before it, will be reset before morning, comes erasing the narrative etched briefly in this serene skirmish. As you rise to leave, you acknowledge the ambassador with a nod, a silent promise to return to play again. It is a reminder that in a world full of noise and haste, there lies a quiet sanctuary in the rhythm of moves on a board where even small victories hold the warmth of a well-told story. So with the night dwindling along with your lingering thoughts, you tread quietly across the gleaming floor, the echoes of your steps vanishing behind you like chapters, closing, leaving just a whisper of your presence behind a story held in pause until dawn breaks and the game begins anew. As your eyes adjust to the dim light of the scriptorium, a flicker catches your attention. The fluttering flame of a single candle struggles valiantly against the all-encompassing darkness of the medieval room. The air carries a faint scent of parchment and beeswax, a reminder of the ancient craft that unfolds within these stone walls. You find yourself drawn to a solitary wooden bench, its surface well worn by the countless scholars who have passed before you. Tonight's adventure finds you in this curious place where the walls seem to hum with the secrets of the past. You lean closer to the parchment that rests before you, and something unusual catches your eye. Curling vines whimsically doodled around the edges of the page. They twist and weave with an enchanting liveliness that seems almost out of place in such a solemn setting. But that's not all. Alongside the vines, dragons emerge fearsome, yet somehow endangered by the quill's playful hand. Their scales are meticulously etched, each line telling a tale of mythical strength and forgotten legends. As you follow the winding path of these illustrations, you encounter the name of a queen, elegantly intertwined with another name, as if to bind their fates together eternally. You can't quite suppress a smile, musing over who might have spawned such poetic graffiti, perhaps during a lecture that lasted a bit too long. Historians have often wondered who wielded the quill with such flourish. Was it a bored monk, letting his mind wander from holy transcriptions? Or perhaps a young novice dreaming of tales more grandiose than what the day's teachings provided? Despite the serious tone of the scriptorium, where every swipe of ink furthers the diligent copying of sacred texts, this whimsical scribe could not contain his creativity or his wanderlust. The scene resembles an academic tapestry, a visual daydream stitched into the margins of history itself. You can nearly feel the quiet amusement of the scribe, imagining him suppressing chuckles as he doodled, one might suspect, only partially lost in contemplation at the symphony of dragon scales and royal romance forming beneath his quill. Perhaps this imagined queen was drawn from life or fiction given life through his sleepy artistry. The vines entwine these elements in a symbolic gesture of unity, an eternal remembrance of this fictional world born amidst scholarly drudgery. You wonder if the scribe believed this act of rebellion might somehow conjure enchantments of romance and chivalry in the real world, or if this was simply his personal sanctuary away from prescribed duties. A whisper soft and subtle drifts from nearby, an imagined dialogue from the past. Ah, my noble dragon, would you guard the heart of a queen so? The words are soft like gentle zephyrs, carrying visions of heroic quests and courtly love. You grin again, imagining the exchange, and how such tales must have filled the scribe's mind long after the candle had burned low. Such mischief in an old script where deeds of daring must yield to the monotonous chorus of copying the day's illuminated manuscripts. The room is quiet around you, the tranquility marred only by the occasional rustle as the pages turn with whispers of their own. In this soothing silence, your thoughts meander like the vines on the scribe's parchment. Maybe it wasn't just boredom that guided his hand, but a genuine yearning to connect worlds, to slip between realms, where dragons are devourers or protectors and queens brave or needing rescue. You picture the scribe all those years ago, hoping his quiet rebellion brought secret smiles to those who followed a whisper of delight, a brief escape into dreams akin to yours now. Outside, you hear the distant call of an owl, the sound echoing in tandem with your own silent revelations. It marks the passage of time, as if gently nudging you toward the realization that perhaps even amidst the tedium of history, there's a tale waiting in the wings prepared to unfold with every stroke of a pen. This world painted in flourishes of ink lulls you as much as the warmth of the dim candlelight flickering in your periphery. As you lean back, settling more comfortably into the creaky bench, you feel your shoulders relax. The story, although incomplete, is satisfyingly complex, inviting further speculation into the life of its creator and the tales that may yet lie undiscovered. In this quaint scriptorium, you sense the unyielding flow of time, the way that history, so easily forgotten, could nonetheless whisper its presence through something as simple as doodles on a page. Such is the power of the human spirit, you muse, nudging history ever slightly with pen and ink. Tonight, nestled within the artifacts of our great past, between the illuminated texts and the mythical imaginings, lies your journey, a soft, bemusing exploration of historical whimsy. Here, where silence bridges past and present, the spectral dance of vines and dragons comes alive before you once more, undulating like gentle waves beneath a starry night's embrace. Sweat beads gently on your brow as you step into the cool, shadowed hall, ancient wooden beams stretching overhead like the vessel of a great ship. Laughter ripples through the air, a gentle tide lapping at your senses. You're present in the kind of place where echoes of the past seem to dance with the present, cloaked in whispered stories and velvet shadows. Here in the snug corner of this venerable room, walls have seen countless performers and heard endless tales, and tonight you're just one more presence amid many. The torches flicker warmly against stone walls, casting fluttering silhouettes that sway like restless phantoms. Your spine tingles slightly as you ease into a carved wooden chair, feeling the notches and worn grooves worn smooth by generations. You dare to let your eyes flit over the audience faces, alight with anticipation, and the twinkling chandeliers above that glint like stars in an ancient sky. In this cozy theater of history, someone steps to the forefront of a makeshift stage, a visage easy to blend with the candle shadows. His voice when he speaks is silk and honey, a melody playing with the boundaries of formality and whimsy. There's irony in the fact that theater, much like life, finds its home in the duality of secrets and surprises. As he starts to recite, you smile wryly, performing a rhyme only she had crafted laboriously, penned in some quiet, stolen moment. Her ink, her words, her creativity unfurling now in an unexpected timbre. His playful renditions sway the hall, laughter erupting freely and echoing off the walls like a conspiratorial choir. It's mesmerizing watching this interplay between the audience and performer, a timeless ballet of humor, dancing with understanding, a comedy well played under this moonlit revelry. It's here you pause within yourself, wondering if recognition ever will find her sitting undisclosed among the joyous assembly. She must be one of the many faces, starlit eyes watching her words flutter by like fledgling birds finding their wings. Laughter fills the air, and momentarily you're swept away by its beauty. And isn't it just like human nature to wear humor as armor art, as expression? But amid the mirth, you note her silent reflection, the strange, studied stillness marking her face amid a sea of mirthful waves. Her hands clasped in her lap lay as serenely as autumn leaves caught in an unyielding breeze. There's an irony here, isn't there? That the creator remains immobile while her creation dances freely. Your mind wanders down well-trodden historical paths, pondering the moments when scenes like this echoed in history. You recall Shakespeare mysteriously absent from the laughter his words often conjured, or the troubadours of old who whispered secrets beneath balcony windows, yet remained unseen as their notes carried into the night air. You wonder, did their hearts too carry both pride and a peculiar solitude at such moments? You can't help but smile at the complexity, thinking to yourself, as the rhyme continues. She watches from behind a woven veil of smiles and curiosity, like the hesitant blush of the first twilight stare, unspoken and rich with untold stories. Yet here stands testimony, a hall alive with laughter, a modest tribute to her crafty pen pushing against the silence. Historians often debate whether creative genius lies more in the pen or in the performance it inspires. Here beneath these ancient rafters, your thoughts drift once more. Maybe it's a dance between the two, an era-old flirtation that binds creation to acclaim presence to prelude. You can't help but wonder if centuries from now, someone will debate this very moment, a notch in time's assiduous passage. The performer's voice fades into the shadows, settling upon the audience like a gentle dusk hushes the world. Laughter subsides, leaving soft whispers to drift like embers in a cooling fire. You shift slightly, feeling the solid reassurance of your seat, the wood, a patient listener to 1,000 tales long past. As people begin to stir and the room lightens with quiet post-performance chatter, you take a moment merging your heartbeat with the historic hum that vibrates subtly through the floorboards. Her eyes, you notice, are contemplative pools, absorbing every ripple of reaction, holding them like precious secrets to be examined later by candlelight. This is her story, now woven intricately with tales of stars and whispered folklore mysteries drifting on time's vast sea. You rise hearing the gentle shuffle of feet, the comforting creak of chairs exhaling after the performance's warmth. One small heartbeat in a storied repertoire blanketing this venerable place. And as you brush past the humor lingering still, your heart whispers tender admiration for that quiet one who spins gold from stories and lets them fly untethered by savings or spotlight. Tonight the world stepped quietly into these words, unearthed them with laughter, resurrected them in a shared breath. Tomorrow they may drift back into the shadows or perhaps wander out again. You close your eyes for a moment, savoring the memory here, imprinted on the wood and stone like dew, cradled on morning leaves, and let your own laughter soft as a lullaby thread into the night air. Sleep meets you at the door, pressingly warm in its invitation, wrapping you in its gentle reverie before dawn's embrace finds you. The journey into history's soft, inviting folds of time lulls you gently. From laughter's crescendo to silence's warm cocoon, you drift breath slowed to match the rhythm of resting dreams. the storied chapel quiets a gentle exhalation, like a lullaby fading into the soft veil of night. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported to a time where fortresses scrape the sky with their towering walls, and the sound of clanging armor is your lullaby. You walk across a vast echoing chamber, the throne room of the castle where shadows from flickering torchlight paint jittery figures along stone walls. Intricate tapestries hang like silent witnesses, depicting battles long past, kings long gone, each thread a narrative woven through time. Your footsteps soften, absorbed by rich carpets underfoot as you approach the grand throne itself, an intricacy of carved wood, more art than seat. Its high back towers over you, as if silently daring any challengers to seat themselves within its regal embrace. You pause and peer around, averting your eyes from the throne's imposing gaze, like sneaking a peek at something not quite meant for mortal eyes. Your attention drifts to the left corner of the room where, half hidden by an old tapestry, a slender, almost missable door beckons with the promise of secrets untold. Of course, doing what any good historian or adventurer would do, you approach. You tug gently, and the door, as if realizing its performance, swings open with a low creak, unveiling a narrow, cobwebbed passageway. Historians still debate whether this secret chamber was a strategic vantage point or merely a forgotten relic, a curiosity born of eccentric design. But as you step forward, your curiosity brightens each shadowed nook. The air is cooler here, tickling your skin with the earthy scent of old stone. You catch your breath as you step into the hidden chamber. True to the legend, one entire wall opens up to the orchards, below the absence of stone, replaced by a panoramic view spilling green and gold into the room. You find yourself breathless, not from awe, well, maybe a little, but from the practical realization that, historically speaking, perhaps a lack of a wall isn't the strongest architectural choice. A ladder leans suggestively against the remaining wall, its rungs worn smooth by time, or perhaps countless backsides sliding down a bit too quickly. Is it a whimsical tale or a practical escape tool? You can't help but smile at the thought of a noble stubbornly shuffling down in a last-minute bid for escape, dignified, of course. Peering out into the orchard, you imagine it teeming with the vibrant buzz of life. Apple blossoms sing sweet notes on the breeze, mingling with the earthy tang of the soil. In the distance, peasants tend to the scattered trees, laughter and labor mingling into an age-old melody. It makes you wonder, did the chamber serve as a spectacle for royals to marvel at the fruits of their land, or was it simply a serene getaway, a whispered secret amongst the nobility? Basking in the soft fading light, your thoughts are suddenly interrupted by the swish of loose hay from below. You lean closer, catching sight of a young stable boy, gazing up with wide eyes, probably on a clandestine quest of his own. "It's a long way down," you call, softly, not wanting to startle him. He frowns, uncertain whether you jest or warn. Only if you miss the latter you add, helpfully a chuckle escaping. The orchard beyond seems alive with the stories of yesteryear, a vibrant tapestry of moments. You are suspended between worlds, nestled within the stone embrace of history, while the present buzzes just beyond reach. Turning back into the chamber, the evening deepens, shadows climbing like ivy up the walls as the sun sinks in a golden farewell. It's here, watching dusk drape itself over the world, that you feel the weight of the past mingling with the present. Your eyes linger on the ladder once more, that tantalizing promise of adventure, or at least an interesting descent. For now, though, the stones hold their secrets, humming softly just below hearing, but felt deep in your bones. You step back, pulling the cloak of night around you like a familiar lullaby, ready to continue your journey of discovery and dreams. Ah, the sounds of clinking cutlery and the gentle murmur of conversation. You're at a grand dinner, gathering the warm candlelight flickering across a long wooden table. Every aspect of this evening feels perfectly orchestrated until out of nowhere, a cacophony of feathers and squawks interrupts the delicate ambiance. You've always imagined polite society to be a more tranquil affair, but here is this bird, determined to prove otherwise. The creature flits around, perching on the edge of crystal goblets, eyeing bread rolls with a daring glint, as if it were its personal buffet. You can't help but stifle a laugh, as one particularly dignified guest ducks to avoid a close encounter with the feathered menace. Watching the pandemonium, you wonder if this bird has disrupted other functions, or if tonight is its grand debut into the annals of dinner theater. Your curiosity gets the better of you, so you decide to investigate. You carefully edge your way through the guests, dodging elbows and the occasional stray napkin, making your way towards the window where the bird finally settles. You note its colorful plumage, unlike anything you've seen, perhaps a parrot from exotic lands. Historians believe such birds were often treasured gifts in the past, though you're not sure the guests here would consider this visit a gift. As you approach, a weary but good-natured gentleman beside you sighs with a mixture of annoyance and amusement. Ah, there it is again. It seems our dinner guest is back. There's a touch of sarcasm in his voice, the kind that only a long familiarity with chaos breeds. You exchange a knowing glance, sharing the joke that dining might never quite be the same. Rumor has it, the bird belongs to the household, but prefers the lively company of dinner parties to the quiet of its own abode. There's a tale about how it was once a prized possession of a sea captain who traded his bounty for it, believing it possessed the ability to talk through storms, though whether it could truly chatter during a tempest remains a mystery debated among sailors. Later, after the commotion dies down and plates are being cleared, you find yourself lounging near the large hearth in the dining room. The warmth from the fire is inviting, and you lean back in your chair, savoring the soothing crackle of wood. However, there is still the faint echo of the bird's chatter bouncing off the vaulted ceilings. You wonder how it manages to be both a nuisance and a source of entertainment simultaneously. The household debates whether they should keep the bird any longer. It's not easy hosting a perpetual source of disturbance. Eventually, a consensus is reached. Perhaps the monastery and the nearby hills would be the perfect new home. You envision the bird conversing with monks under stone arches, its interruptions now translated into blessings of laughter for those who appreciate life's little unpredictabilities. The next day, under a soft gray sky that promises rain, you find yourself accompanying the bird on its journey. As you walk up the cobbled path, the landscape painted with wildflowers and the soft hum of distant bells from the monastery reaches your ears. The air is fresh and carries an indescribable tranquility, a sharp contrast to the lively drama of the previous night's dinner. You can't help but crack a half smile at what you imagine the bird's inner dialogue might be during this relocation. Will it miss the fine dining or embrace the monastic life? Perhaps it will become a sage of sorts, offering unsolicited advice to novice monks during morning prayers. You chuckle lightly at the thought, even as you sense the bird's quiet acceptance of its new fate, its eyes surveying the landscapes, as if considering its new title in this chapter of history. As you finally reach the towering monastery gates, they open slowly, revealing a pair of monks waiting with a serene and welcoming presence. You're surprised to see hints of anticipation in their eyes. Seems the reputation of this peculiar avian resident has preceded it. One of the monks comments on how they've often longed for more lively company, letting a small, proud smile escape his otherwise calm demeanor. Handing over the bird, you pause for a moment, looking up at the ancient stone walls that now promise to be its refuge. The entire scene, while surreal, vibrates with a gentle hopefulness. You realize that life, with its unexpected turns, often brings friendships and stories that enrich the chapters of history you find yourself standing upon. The monks, grateful and amused by the new addition, bid you a warm farewell, suggesting the bird has already taken to its new stage, chattering softly, as if to test the acoustics of its sacred new home. You walk back down the hillside, each echo of birdsong drifting on the wind, a reminder that even the smallest creatures play their roles in crafting the stories that weave through time. As the night falls once more, you find yourself reflecting on the beauty of these interconnected journeys, those of birds, humans, and the timeless dance of unexpected guests at a dinner table. With a final glance back at where the monastery stands silhouetted against the sky, you feel a quiet closure, an understanding that in stories of old, where the factual dances with the fanciful, there will always remain a place for serene surprises. Your heart settled, you yawn deeply, the weight of the day folding into the comfort of night. Your thoughts drift like a feather on a light breeze, carrying you gently away to dreams where history mingles with fanciful flights. And so, you rest amidst whispers of bygone days and the soft flutter of wings. The small music box sits unassumingly on the corner of an ancient wooden table, its surface polished by years of careful hands brushing across it. You reach out tentatively, feeling the cool metal latch against your fingertips as you open the lid. Inside, delicate gears click into motion, and a soft melody begins to weave through the air, luring your attention away from the flickering candlelight, casting its warm glow against the stone walls. This tune is a subtle, haunting lullaby, familiar to only two people who ever hummed it, neither of whom wore the crown they once came so close to grasping. Historians still debate whether this melody originated from an early pocket watch inventor or a wandering minstrel who poured his true love into every note. You listen intently, letting the melody wrap around you like a gentle breeze, as if it carries whispers from a time long past, a time when the box was not just an object, but a testament to a bond shared by two souls against the odds. The sound mingles with the backdrop of creaking wooden beams and the faint rustle of aged parchment stacked by the window. The box, despite its size, tells a story much larger than itself. Sitting here, you can't help but wonder about the tales of those uncrowned lovers whose ambitions might have driven them onto greatness or folly, like being handed the role of a ship captain when you've never set foot on a boat. The world in which they lived was not short of its conspiracies and whispers, you muse. As you stand, the dust of time seems to hover like a sly accomplice in a suspenseful drama, all set against the echo of your footsteps across the uneven stone floor. This particular room is part of an old keep. Its chilly drafts are said to carry words of the past. Or maybe that's just the wind having a bit of fun at your expense. In the corner sits a dusty tapestry. With a light humor, you think it might have seen better days. But then again, what hasn't? The imagery depicted tells tales of long-forgotten battles. And you can almost hear the clashing of swords and the roar of knights in shining armor. Just then, you think of the oddity that not every story ends with a crown. Sometimes it's merely about the journey and the music shared along the way. Your thoughts are interrupted by a sleepy-eyed groundskeeper who passes through with a nod. "Still playing its tune," he murmurs softly, as if reluctant to disturb the lingering notes. His presence is comforting in this twilight world of your imagination, where historical mystery meets the whispers of dreams. The groundskeeper has always been a source of stories, casually recounting tales passed down through generations from an era where truth often mingles with legend. They say, once a duke who should have been king held this box, he continues in a low tone. But perhaps his heart was lighter without the crown's weight. You're left pondering his words as the melody fades back into silence. The box closing with a gentle click, sealing away its history for another time. You smile slightly, imagining how history could have been much like how you imagine a chef trying to bake a cheese soufflé at sea during a storm. Turning away, you feel the room's stories etched into its very bones, settling back down, waiting patiently to be awakened by the curious. The evening deepens, wrapping around you like the melody itself, an age-old mystery you're a part of, if only for a moment. In the dimly lit room, a crisp breeze flutters through an open window, carrying with it the scent of dew-kissed leaves. You find yourself treading softly across the creaky floorboards, drawn towards an ancient mahogany desk in the corner. A single candle flickers low, its amber glow casting long shadows that sway like ghostly dancers on the walls. A Amidst a clutter of yellowed papers and ink-stained quills, one parchment in particular seems to call to you. The delicate script suggests it's a letter from another time, marked conspicuously with the words, "Burn this after reading." As you pick it up, its textured surface tingles under your fingers, a peculiar warmth radiating from within, as if the words themselves are alive with secrets. You chuckle softly to yourself, wondering if letters had developed their own self-warming feature, a product of medieval innovation, or perhaps an elaborate jest orchestrated by some bygone scribe. Historians still debate whether the ancients ever truly mastered the art of magical ink, or if such tales were spun merely to entertain. The room around you fades gently, drawing your focus to the tale. The letter weaves a story preserved through time, simply because someone somewhere had chosen to ignore the instructions so boldly inscribed upon it. You exhale, shoulders ease in as you let the words wash over you, painting a world that now springs to life. You are standing on a cobblestone street, not unlike those winding through old European towns, where each stone has nestled into place over centuries. It is here, amid the morning bustle of merchants, calling out their wares, that you are transported to a land where the past and present coexist. The marketplace is abuzz with life vendors, barter passionately over apples, smoked meats, and the curiously elusive spice rumored to hold the power to extend your life, or at least to flavor your soup. Pausing, you notice nearby the wooden overhang of a small apothecary shop, its signs swaying in the gentle breeze. Madame Willow's Remedies and Curiosities. Curiosity piqued, you enter, greeted by the soothing aroma of dried herbs and ancient wood. Shelves line the walls, brimming with glass bottles and mysterious concoctions, promising cures for ailments you hope never to have. Madame Willow, with her eyes twinkling like she's privy to every secret the town holds, approaches. "Looking for something specific, dear?" she asks, with a voice like crackling firewood. You smile politely, pondering whether asking for anything to handle glowing letters would seem too forward. "Just browsing, thank you," you reply, noting the peculiar role of apothecaries in history, not merely purveyors of medicine, but as keepers of village lore. Madame Willow nods knowingly, as if this is precisely the response she anticipated. Your eyes wander to a shelf, showcasing remedies that claim to alleviate everything from a mild headache to an existential crisis guaranteed. You can't help but imagine what tomorrow's advertisements might say in your own time, if only they were half as innovative. Leaving the apothecary, you meander past stone arches and flower-draped terraces, the rhythm of your footsteps intertwining with the melodies of distant lutes. This world is warm and inviting, its history beating beneath your feet. Finding a quiet nook under an old oak, you settle onto the grass, the letter once more safely in hand. The breeze stirs, and as the pages flutter open, the words resume their whisper, conjuring images of grand feasts, whispered secrets in candlelit alcoves, and the clandestine machinations of figures long shadowed from sight. You wonder at the lives captured in these pages, the dreams and fears that echo through time. As the sun dips, painting the sky in hues of rose and gold, You decide to tuck the letter beneath your coat. Its warmth feels reassuring against your heart, a beacon guiding your path through the labyrinth of history. And with it, a reflection, an age-old truth emerges. Some stories, though told in fleeting moments, glow eternally within us, much like the letter you hold forever, waiting to illuminate the past for curious minds like yours. With a yawn, your thoughts turn toward evening comforts, envisioning the softest blanket and a crackling fire awaiting your return, a reward for one more day spent wandering the tapestry of history. But could it be that the true stories are never simply read? They are lived, savored in stolen moments beneath ancient trees, or felt in the lingering glow of a letter never burned. As you rise, the world around you shifts ever so slightly, beckoning you onward to the tales yet to unfold. You wake up to the gentle murmuring of leaves and the slant of morning light filtering through your window. It's one of those perfect autumn days when the world seems dipped in gold and anything feels possible. You find yourself walking to the library, a cozy old building that stands proudly at the end of a narrow cobblestone street, like it's been waiting for you all these years. Inside, the aroma of aged paper and polished wood wraps around you like a warm shawl. The librarian offers you a soft smile over her spectacles, her mess of curly gray hair catching the light like a halo. You've heard stories about her, stories of long nights with books and whispers of history coming alive in her presence. Today, you're here to explore one such story, the life of a woman who claimed she read late into many nights. You discover a comfortable spot near a tall window, the glass stained with abstract colors that paint the room in a muted kaleidoscope. The lamp beside you is one of those sturdy old things with an ornate shade. You ask the librarian if she has any books on the topic, and she nods, disappearing between tall shelves. While you wait, you let your eyes wander around the room. You notice a curious thing. The lamp always seems to be cold, untouched by warmth, despite its seemingly frequent use. When the librarian returns, she carries a book titled The Reading Guardian Tales of the Eloquent Night Owl, handed to you with a slight blush that intrigues you. As you settle back and turn the pages, the narrative unfolds. This woman, famed for her voracious reading habits, had claimed she spent long nights immersed in stories, her evenings filled with the soft glow of a lamp. Yet even from these first accounts, an air of mystery surrounds her, as elusive as smoke grasping at the wind. Historians still debate whether she truly spent those nights awake, or if this was all a romantic facade. With each page, you immerse deeper into her world. One evening, she allegedly read about the gunpowder plot of 1605, where Guy Fawkes and his companions conspired to blow up the British Parliament, an event intended to topple the government, but famously thwarted a reminder that not all plans go off with a bang. You chuckle softly to yourself, imagining how books might combust with such knowledge. As you read on, you learn she was known for her wit and sharp intuition. She held gatherings where stories were swapped like currency, finding humor in the mundane and pointing out the absurdity of life as easily as brushing lint off a sleeve. You find yourself smiling, wondering if she and the librarian share more than just a penchant for books, as their cheeks tint the same shade of rose. The room around you fades as the rich tapestry of history fills your mind. You imagine her slipping through shadows in her candlelit study, perhaps feeling the weight of the dark pressed against her windows. Her life remains a puzzle, each piece a whisper against the grain of certainty. The book you hold is filled with such stories, yet bound together by uncertainty. You learn that during air raids of World War II, blackout curtains were a staple, and she supposedly bragged about needing none when deeply engrossed in a good book, suggesting perhaps even bombs might hesitate to disturb a devoted reader. As the sun begins to dip beyond the horizon, you close the book with a sense of satisfaction, though several questions still linger. Perhaps, like this mysterious figure, some mysteries are meant to be savored, their secrets unraveling slowly, like the unfurling petals of a night-blooming flower. The librarian approaches, asking if you enjoyed the book. Her face betrays a knowing smile, as if the pages have touched you the way they have touched many before. You ask about the blushing, and in her serene manner, she simply replies, "Some stories are best left to the imagination." As you stand to leave, your gaze falls once more on the cold lamp, and you begin to suspect it might share the same secrets as the woman in the book kindred spirits in their silent vigil of mystery. The librarian's chuckle follows you out, rolling softly like a sigh through the quiet corridors of the library. Wrapping your coat tighter as you exit into the fresh evening air, you feel a small spark of camaraderie with that enigmatic reader, your own curiosity ignited as brightly as any lamp that ever was or ever wasn't used late into the night. Despite the whispers, locked doors, and wilted garlands, she stood beside the king, smiling faintly. History forgot the rest. She didn't. You find yourself standing in the grand hall. Shadows dance across the ancient stone walls as flickering torchlight casts an amber glow. The air is thick with the scent of beeswax and layered with whispers that echo through the arches above. There's a grandeur here, though somewhat faded, like an old memory revisited in dreams. As you stand shoulder to shoulder with the courtiers, you notice their eyes flicker nervously towards the high dais where the king sits. His presence is commanding, but your gaze drifts to the woman by his side. She holds her own quietly, unassumingly. Her faint smile is enigmatic, like she knows something the rest of you don't. A chess player planning 10 moves ahead while others grasp the rules. Historians still debate whether she wielded power or merely played a part in the grand theater of monarchy. But as you watch her, you wonder if there ever was a question. She exudes a calm self-assuredness, a subtle nod to secrets kept beyond locked doors. You're startled from your thoughts by the soft rustle of her gown as she shifts slightly. The fabric delicate yet resilient, like she whispers against the floor. You catch a flicker of recognition in the king's eyes as he turns to her, acknowledging her presence with a subtle nod. It's a small gesture, yet it speaks volumes to those who understand their language of gestures and slight smiles. The courtiers are restless, fidgeting like children forced to stay still for too long during a sermon. Occasionally, you catch snippets of murmured conversations about alliances, mysterious disappearances, and tales of faded glory that cling to this place like ivy on old stone. One woman's voice breaks the monotony with a musing, half-serious comment. You think they keep those garlands for luck or just ran out of ideas to pretty it up? A laugh bubbles up before you can stop it, and several heads turn your way. Embarrassed, you pretend to peer intently at a tapestry. It depicts a battle, the threadbare patches, suggesting it might predate even the kingdom itself. You trace the edges of the woven scene, the clash of colors fading into its backdrop over time. It occurs to you that every thread can tell a story, if looked at closely enough. Perhaps that's all. History is a tapestry of moments, some remembered, most forgotten. The king begins to speak, his voice a steady rumble that silences the room. You notice how everyone stands straight, her attention instantly riveted. There's a weight to each word, a royal gravity you can't help but respect. Yet you can't shake the feeling that her smile holds more influence than his grand declarations. Remember, his tone softens, almost intimate. Despite the crowd, our legacy is not what is written in the books, but what is lived in the hearts of our people. You catch her gaze meeting her eyes that seem wiser and kinder than her years suggest. And just like that, the moment passes. The court stirs back to life, whispers reborn, though quieter now like the sea after a storm. The spell is broken, though the echo of those words tickles your mind, and you imagine they linger for her too, resonating long after the chamber falls back into its restless chatter. Outside, the evening air nips at your cheeks as you step into the courtyard. The sky wears a cloak of deep indigo stars winking like conspirators in the dark. You wander toward the garden, drawn by the scent of night-blooming jasmine that unfurls perfumed mysteries into the night. A lone candle flickers on a stone ledge, stubbornly defying the encroaching darkness. It's quieter here, only the soft crunch of gravel underfoot as you walk toward a wooden bench beneath a gnarled old tree. Just then, a slight breeze tugs at your cloak, and you shiver, though not entirely from the chill. There's something in the air, a promise of stories, untold secrets of the heart that no historian's pen has captured, maybe hers. You lean back, eyes drifting skyward, as a shooting star arcs across the void, a brief blazing reminder of how fleeting yet beautiful the moments are. You close your eyes, wondering if she ever sat upon this bench, under this very tree, pondering the weight of her unfurling legacy, invisible to time's relentless tide, listening to the garden's gentle symphony, rustling leaves, distant wolf's howl. You start to doze. You wonder if the whispers behind locked doors will ever tell their full tales, or if they'll remain as forgotten echoes, like the smell of garlands long wilted. As if on cue, the wind carries a soft laugh to your ears, hers perhaps locked in time. It wraps around you, inviting, reassuring, a gentle lullaby, weaving you into her story, one that she never forgot even if history did. You breathe deeply, the aroma of jasmine blending with peaty earth, pulling you further into its depths. The candle's flame dances valiantly in the breeze, its glow a beacon of hope, reminding you that even in forgotten corners, stories linger steadfast. In this peaceful corner of an almost forgotten world, you find solace. Here, surrounded by echoes of yesteryears, you drift into sleep, carried on whispers both forgotten and remembered.